Hey guys, Zach here, and welcome to build video number 2 for this E36 318 3 Series that we have here. If you guys haven't seen the first video, I'll post a link somewhere up in this area. You guys can get all caught up on the build here. For those of you guys that watched the last video and wrote below in the comments about what we should do with the original 4-cylinder engine in here, should we just cut our losses and dump in a straight 6, or should we try to save this? To be honest, it was literally a 50-50 mix between you guys as to what we should do. But I'm going to go ahead and side with the guys that say we should keep it original, just for the sheer fact that it's a one-owner, like I said, New England car, and it's a survivor. You know what I mean? I kind of think we owe it to the car for relatively cheap money to try to get this thing back on the road, get 35 miles per gallon, and just make this thing absolutely perfect. I mean, it's very good shape now, but we're just going to make it, take it to that next level. So now let's take the next step. Let's start tearing into this thing and see if we can figure out what is causing this issue in this motor. Was it overheating? Is it something internally broken? We really don't know, but right now we're going to tear into it. So let's get going. All right, so we went ahead and pulled fuse 18 for the fuel pump there, and we've got our compression tester screwed into cylinder 4 here. Now this is the one on the back half of the motor that we were told is right next to the coolant leak. So if we've got little to no compression here, we should know that probably got a head gasket issue. So I'll try to get you guys zoomed in on the gauge there as we crank this. You should see it jump up. All right, so we got about no compression, it looks like, on that one there. Yeah, that's not going to do well. Head gasket time, let's go. All right, guys, so here's where we're at so far. We're kind of leaning towards ripping the valve cover off, especially coming from the world of 6 cylinders, working on these 4-cylinder motors. It's wicked easy by comparison. Now, if you remember, the previous owner had told us that he and his mechanic suspected a head gasket issue, which is kind of common on these vehicles because there was misfire on a cylinder, and I'm not sure if they did a compression check or not. I'm going to look through the stack of receipts that I got with the vehicle to see if there's any diagnosis written down there. But the other thing being that there was a substantial steam coolant loss event going on in the back of the motor. But these motors are kind of notorious for that Y plastic pipe cracking. So I'm still crossing my fingers that's the source of that leak, and it's not the head itself. But I got to thinking that looking at the vehicle, first, second, and third cylinders all had great compression, especially for 200,000 miles. And then number 4 was substantially lower. I've always, just in my experience, seen head gaskets fail between cylinders, so it'll burn through the head gasket between, one of any 2 cylinders, I guess between 2 cylinders. But in this instance, great compression, great, and then almost none on the back here, which makes me feel like we're not really talking about a head gasket issue. We potentially just might have that cracked plastic pipe in the rear and a valve issue. Now, the reason I bring up a valve issue is if that valve is stuck open, obviously we're not going to have good compression numbers in the engine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull off the valve cover and just make sure the upper valve train here looks good. I've actually seen camshafts crack leaving one set of cylinders not activated by the camshaft there. So like I said, this 4-cylinder is wicked easy to work on, so we're going to pop the valve cover off, just make sure everything looks good under there, and then from there we'll decide if we want to go deeper into the motor today or save it, order a bunch of parts to try to save this 4-cylinder. All right, so as you can see underneath here, we've got quite a bit of condensation built up. I mean, this is not really surprising if the vehicle was moved for, short periods and whatnot, not really allowed to warm up due to the fact it's got that issue with cylinder 4. The only other thing I want to double check here is make sure all these lines are actually cleared out. They might be totally clogged up. So I'm going to double check that in the valve cover, but let's move on to the engine itself and see what, if anything, we can see here. Try to get you guys some light. All right, so here we go, kind of more of the same. You can see that just the milky oil there, just condensation built up over there. But what we're going to do is we're going to crank the engine over by hand a couple of times here. All right, so last thing we're going to do, I mean, the engine was running and driving, so it can't be as catastrophic as anything else here, but we're just going to watch the plunger, this 1/4 inch extension that I have there. You can see the pistons coming up, going down. So it's not like the piston itself is disconnected or anything catastrophic like that. You can see that no issues with the camshafts themselves. They look like 200,000 mile camshafts. So, like I had mentioned, it would be nice to have our bore scope to be able to go down into the cylinder, have a look around, you know, kind of see if it is a head gasket or valve issue. But regardless, the head's going to have to come off to either address the head gasket or the valve issue itself. So, the bore scope would be nice though, because then we'd know if we have to order valves or head gasket or just head gasket. But we might as well just go ahead and grab everything. All right, so this is crazy, guys. I got to show you exactly where we're losing compression on cylinder 4 because I have never ever seen this before. But here we've got our head bolts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, right? So these bolts actually hold the head, you know, squishing the head gasket to the block. All right? Check this out. Head bolt, head bolt, head bolt, and no head bolt. Two things. One, that's where our air is coming from when we, you know, we're doing this leak down test, trying to pressurize that cylinder. That whistling noise is coming out of that hole. When I plug the hole with my finger with a glove on, we then hear and feel air coming out from the head and the block where it meets. It's blowing by that head gasket. Okay, head bolts snapping. It's uncommon, more so on other cars. But let's just say this is a common issue, which it very well may be. I haven't checked the TIS on this or anything, but it very well may be a common issue on these 4 cylinders. But my question to you guys is, where's the rest of the bolt? I've checked all the galleyways. I've run through it with a magnet. We're talking about like a 3.5, 4-inch bolt that's just gone. So I don't know where it possibly could have gone. I don't think it could have worked its way down here without damaging any of the lobes of the cam and then fallen down. I mean, I'm going to pull the oil pan to do a new gasket anyway, but where's the head bolt? All right, so I just had a chance to get off the phone with the previous owner. He and I both don't know what to make of this whole situation. The vehicle was at another shop to get looked at, and I did kind of think to myself that the valve cover gasket is almost brand new. So I'm kind of thinking somebody was in here somewhat recently. You can see all the oil and condensation built up from not driving, you know, short trips, short run times. But the question still remains is, what happened to this missing head bolt? The only thing I could possibly think of is that maybe this had a leak on that back lower left-hand corner of the engine, a head gasket leak, and maybe what that mechanic had tried to do was just to tighten down that head bolt and inadvertently snapped it off. Because I can't think of any other way that we're missing, you know, I think it's 100 millimeters plus, or sorry, minus whatever's broken off into the block of the motor there. So let's say it's, you know, 80 millimeters worth of bolt that's just missing. So somebody had to have taken it out of the engine, or else it should have caused more damage or some damage at all inside the engine. But as of now, it's just missing. So, I mean, we're at the point now where, I mean, it would be fantastic if I could pull the rest of that bolt out, order a new bolt, run it down, clamp it just to see what happens. But I don't think I'll be able to extract that bolt too easily in there. We definitely get at least an inch or so worth of threads in the block. So I think what we're going to do right now is we're just going to plan on taking the head off, shipping it to the machine shop, have them pressure test and deck it just to make sure it's flat, and check it for cracks and whatnot. I think that would be the safest thing to do. But I mean, something had to have caused that to break. It could have been mileage. It could have actually overheated. So before we get the new head, throw it back on, I think what we're going to do is a cooling system upgrade here. Just refresh all the parts, make sure the cooling fan and everything else is working, just to take that out of the equation. But somebody at some point was in here, noticed that head stud was broken, that head bolt rather, and I don't know if they just took it out, and I honestly don't know. But aside from that, I have no idea where it went. But for now, throw the valve cover back in, pop the plugs back in so we can pull this out from the next car coming in while we're waiting for some parts to be ordered here. But essentially that's how we're going to leave it for now. We're going to get the valve cover back on, get the plugs back in there so it's running and driving again. We're going to park it until the parts we order come in. It's really a shame that, well, you know, that the previous owner thought it was just a head gasket or a warped or broken head, which it very well could be until we get it back from the machine shop and they tell us if it's level. But I still have no idea what happened to that head bolt, where it went, who took it out, because the one owner that I bought the vehicle from had no knowledge of a head bolt even being touched. The head's never been out of the car. I don't know what to make of the whole situation, but now I'm thinking here that there's a bolt floating around somewhere in the car, but maybe it somehow made it all the way down to the oil pan. I doubt it, but you know, it would be a nice surprise. I'm really just crossing my fingers that it's not anywhere in the motor right now. But for now, let's go ahead, button it back up, get it outside, call the boys down at FCP Euro, have them ship out just a whole host of parts to throw in the car here. We're going to do a little minor suspension refresh on this thing. But what we're seeing aside from that head bolt there, I mean, this car is in fantastic shape. We're pumped. You guys let me know what you want to see. What upgrades should we do? I think we're going to take a chance here, like some of you guys had posted below, to salvage the car. So let's see if we can, for a couple $100, get this motor back up and running. But until then, click that like and subscribe button. I'll see you guys next time.